Hello again. Hopefully you just watched my introduction video where I introduced myself and introduced projects we will be doing from our kit in this 4-week series of Art Heals with Interurban Art House. So our theme for week 1 is the topic of time. This is probably a therapist's favorite topic to discuss because we are constantly, as clinicians, shifting between past, present, future, working through things with people. That might be a topic for another video. But what we're going to do today is we are going to make something called a triptych, a very fancy art history term, which we'll go into in a minute. We'll be using this Ziploc bag that's filled with colored pencils, a glue stick, and some cardstock, and some magazine pictures that I cut out for you. If you're wanting to add more stuff before you get started, you might want to grab a pair of scissors and any junk mail, any old magazines you have lying around that could be torn up or cut up, and maybe pencil, pen, markers, anything else you might want to add. So let's get started. A triptych is a genre of art that we associate with pre-Renaissance, often early Christian European art, where art was created on 3 panels, thus the triptych. Sometimes they were done on wooden things that would be hinged closed that were portable. But I love that motif because it sort of elevates something simple like a collage into a historical element from the art history field. And the medium we'll be using today as our base is cardstock. So I loaded you up in your kit with either black cardstock or white cardstock. I made it sort of small so that we have that sense of completion and so it doesn't look overwhelming. If I gave you poster-sized board, it might look too overwhelming, but if you're in the mood to do something gigantic, by all means, feel free to do that. These are only suggestions. And I also added a Ziploc bag full of cute scrapbooky things, which you might decide to include in this as well. Everyone got sort of a random assortment of things that I have in my life. I went ahead and loaded people's bags up with just some random pictures from the magazines I have lying around my house. These might resonate with you, they might not resonate with you. I find sometimes when people are creating collages and I have pre-cut images for them, there sometimes tends to be a serendipitous nature of people finding the perfect image that describes what they were thinking or wanting to try to say that they didn't have words for. Like this might symbolically say something like vacation, past, present, future. There's an interesting one. So look through your pile, see what resonates with you, maybe spread them out across where you're working. And we're going to tackle the topic of time, which is an interesting construct in our era, but really especially during this pandemic season. My observation for the past almost 2 years now is time has become an interesting thing that we perhaps took for granted all of our lives until this season, where we suddenly, in many cases, have been living the same day over and over and over, uncertain what the near future may look like because of uncertainty around, is the pandemic going away? Is it going away forever? Is it coming back? Is it going to be worse around the corner? And the distress levels it's caused many people has been disconcerting, to say the least. And one way to help people problem solve is to invite them to think of time in a way that suits them. And that is exactly what we're going to do today. And so what I want everyone to do is choose 3 pieces of paper. I'm going to choose black. And one of these pieces of paper will represent the past. One of these pieces of paper will represent the present. One of these pieces of paper will represent future. And you really get to be creative on deciding what that even means. Does that mean yesterday, today, tomorrow? Does that mean the beginning of your life now and the future part of your life? Does that mean pre-pandemic, pandemic, post-pandemic, whatever that means? And I would invite everybody into maybe being like listening into kind of what your mood is today. How playful do you want to be? How serious do you want to be? How much do you want to use this opportunity of art making to dig into something big or to stay on the surface? But whatever you choose, art always gets to be an interesting way to work through problems. I sometimes invite people to work on the future one first, or the present one first, or the past one first, actually. I'd choose all three of them, but perhaps like I'll go through and walk through my thought process. I think as I'm in the middle of January, it's cold. There's still a lot of uncertainty of what's safe, what's not safe, what feels comfortable. And so instead of getting stuck in the here and now, one little trick we can do with time is to think about near future. So for me, near future thinking about something positive is something like spring. I know even if we're still doing pandemic stuff, spring is coming no matter what. So it's something to look forward to. Maybe when things start turning green, when things start to blossom. But I push that piece even farther. And for myself, I'm thinking about maybe planning out trips for the near future, maybe in springtime or beyond. And so I think I might make my near future collage about that idea of maybe planning out trips or planning out things. So one of these pictures right in front of me, this first one I saw, is a nice cruise that looks probably like Alaska. I don't think that's going to happen in my life, but that's okay because the image really captures that sense of being away and being on a trip somewhere beautiful, like on this cruise ship in Alaska, which is not in my living room. So that might be the first picture I put down. You might like the size that it is, or you might choose to cut it down. And really what we're going to do is we're going to add different pieces and elements of that future thinking about time. I'm going to pause it and I'll make a sample one and show you just kind of what a finished collage in my mind might look like. The beautiful thing about collaging is there's really no right or wrong way to do this. No one's going to grade us. No one's going to tell us that there is a specific way collages should look. But you might find it's a low-level, easy entry point for self-expression and creativity. And then once I do my future one, I might go to the present one, and maybe I might find some images or add some words in or write some words in that maybe just capture the here and now. It might be a snow scene. It might be a person with a coat or even a coat or a scarf or a cup of coffee or hot chocolate or hot tea. And then maybe I'll go through my past one as well. Might be an earlier stage of the pandemic. It might be an earlier pre-pandemic era. I haven't decided on that one yet. But the goal is that the finished product is sort of a coherent narrative of us telling a story of past, present, future in whatever topic we're choosing. And I think you'll be delighted and surprised to see how much these simple materials that we're just pulling out of a Ziploc bag can help you tell your story. And that's very simply at its base what I do in my profession of art therapy is I offer art materials to help people better tell their story. When we can think it, it's one thing. When we can think it, make it, tell it, then in a way we get to own it and own our story. And this is a little bit different of a format than if we're in person and we get to share our artwork with each other. The beauty of group settings and art making like this is when someone holds up their image, other participants can be like, oh yeah, that's my story too, or I resonate with that because that kind of feels like my story. I'd like to be on a cruise in Alaska as well, or whatever piece of it that you're sharing. So I would invite you, feel free to email me with your finished project. If you give me permission to share with others, if you decide to zoom in to some of our sessions, feel free to do that as well. We don't know what this format is going to look like. We just know that we do have something on the schedule for the next 4 weeks. And yeah, I'm gonna pause it and then I'll come back on after I've added some collage material to my images or to my collage elements, and I'll catch you back in a few minutes.